let's talk about the Sedins. Because last night, the Canucks, they played the Sharks. They lost 5-0. I, for the most part, don't believe they deserved to lose 5-0. I do think they had a sort of okay game. I mean, the score certainly doesn't reflect that. They were -3 for 5 in the power play, but their play does not reflect a 5-0 loss. Because I felt that their play improved quite a bit from the Anaheim game. Their penalty kills started clearing the puck. They started setting up, getting some decent chances. But a big name and a big topic that has been surrounding the Canucks in these previous games has been Sedin. And why is that? Well, it's because the Sedins, these two guys, have been the staple of the Canucks for a long time. Ever since the West Coast Express left, the team was basically carried, and the faces of the team were the Sedins and Luongo, basically. So they've been in this position for a long time, and right now it's starting to come to that point where they're fading out. All the new guys are coming up. These guys are now the new faces of the team. We got Brock Besser, Bo Horvat, Ben Hutton. These are the guys that define the Canucks as a team right now. And Sedins are no longer in that picture. Sedins are, for the most part, 8 minutes a night players. You could say they're quote-unquote on the fourth line. Sometimes they get a little bit more time than that. In the practices, they're always on first. But for the most part, Henrik and Daniel Sedin have stepped down. And I don't believe that they're going to be ones to argue against this, because I made a video about a year ago talking about what if the Sedins retire. And the big idea in that video was basically, once the Sedins retire, that's when we go young and fast. That's when the rebuild commences. That is the first big step in getting and developing these younger players. This is the first step of the rebuild. Well, it's 1 year later, and we already have young guys who are developing and growing, and that's cool, you know, that's great, but we still got some older dudes too, and the Sedins count in that category as older dudes. So, a lot of people have been criticizing the Sedins as of late, because taking a look at the team now, Daniel Sedin is 6th on the Canucks in scoring. He's got 8 points in 17 games played. Henrik is 12th. He's got 5 points in 17 games. And to put things into perspective on how minuscule that is compared to the rest of the league, Brock Besser is leading the Canucks with 14 points in 14 games. And compared to the rest of the league, there are 55 players who have more points than Brock Besser. And Brock Besser is the point leader on the Canucks. So it's just a staple of a few things. First off, we knew the Canucks weren't going to be really that good this season. That's kind of expected coming in. We already know that the Canucks are in a playoff spot right now. That is subject to change for sure, but for the most part, nobody really expected the Canucks to be absolutely fantastic this year. And the Sedins, well, their primes were, let's say, 6 years ago. 2010, 2011, that time. And 6 years ago is 6 years ago, so 6 years kind of does make a difference in a player's career, and that's kind of obvious. So, the Sedins, you know, they've been playing for a long time. Henrik is arguably one of the best playmakers that is active right now. You could say Joe Thornton is in that conversation as well, Jaromir Jagr, maybe even like Sidney Crosby or whatever, but Henrik Sedin, definitely one of the best playmakers that is active right now in terms of all time. Daniel Sedin is always going to be remembered because he's the twin brother of Henrik, and he got the Art Ross, and he's a goal scorer and all that. So, it's for sure they've had legendary careers here, and they've grown into such good people working around Vancouver and everything. But in terms of the Canucks and the Canucks right now, we need to talk about the Sedins because the Sedins, their play has been incredibly reduced. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're still capable of getting 100 points, because that's not possible anymore. Their vision, for the most part, it's kind of there. Their speed picks up maybe like once a week. There's like one good stretch every week where they do exhibit speed. And the rest of the time, they're slow. A lot of their passes don't really make it through anymore. They still make clever passes and everything, but they're not as effective as they were 6 years ago, which is expected because the game grows and the game develops and everything, but nowadays, it's the last year of their contracts, and they're getting paid $7 million a year. This is the last year. I want to know what you guys think. What's going to happen next year? What should happen next year? And what you want to happen next year? Because if I wanted to talk about what I think is going to happen next year, I couldn't put an answer to that. I don't know if this is their last year. I don't know if they're going to go with what they said previously and sign like $1-2 million deals to stay with the team in a bottom 6 position. I don't know what I want to happen with the Sedins. Honestly, my heart says that they have had such good careers here, and they're definitely faces of the franchise, so they are literally franchise players for the Canucks, but their time is up. Their time is now. That was a John Cena quote, but their play has been so significantly reduced that it brings the rest of the team down, in my opinion. And I don't want to say that because we know that they're good leaders. We know that Henrik is the captain, Daniel's the alternate, and they have such a good calming presence for these young kids coming into the Canucks team, and it's such a good thing for them because they're showing all these other younger guys how to be leaders and how to have a positive mental attitude and whatever, how to be suitable for the game of hockey. And that's important. That's definitely important. But the Sedins, they do have such a limited moveset on the ice now. And I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to score like 20 goals or whatever, because I don't believe that's going to happen. What I believe is going to happen is next year they either come back in a bottom 6 role or they retire. What would I prefer? If it were up to me, I'd say, okay, the Sedins, they retire next year, and immediately after they retire, their numbers get retired in the rafters and they become like coaches or whatever. They get development roles with the Canucks because their leadership is valuable and it is so important in being able to grow and develop these young guys. But is that enough to justify having these 2 guys on the team who are slow, who don't get any playing time, who take up 2 roster spots that could have easily been given to guys like Goldobin, or Gauntz, or Adam Gaudette in the future? Is it that necessary to retain the growth of other younger guys for the sake of having the Sedins on the team next year? Because we all know their leadership is valuable, but is it that valuable? Is it that valuable to the point where we can say, okay, we're playing the Sedins on the team instead of insert younger guy here? Is it that important? And that's why I believe that the best course of action would be to have them to retire, to free up the roster spots, to get all that cap off, and keep them on the organization. They live here. They love it here. So what's there to say that they're not going to consider working with the Vancouver Canucks after they play? They still have the ability to mentor, tutor, and develop great leadership-like qualities in all of these young guys without being on the team. And that's what guys like developmental coaches do. They can have a spot on the team when the prospects come in for prospects camp. They could help these guys out there. And when the team is in succession like it is now, they could travel with the team, practice with the team, do all the things that a developmental coach does that help expand and brighten all the young guys coming into the organization. Because we all know that guys like Louis Eriksson, they don't really need, like, developmental coaches. They don't need guys showing them how to be leaders, because guys like Louis Eriksson, they're old already. But the Sedins have a good ability in being able to mentor and tutor these young guys. That's what I believe would be the best course of action. What do you guys think? 3 questions. What do you guys think is going to happen with the Sedins? What do you think should happen with the Sedins? And what do you want to happen to the Sedins? Because those are 3 different questions with potentially 3 different answers. For the most part, though, the Sedins, fantastic franchise players for the Canucks. I would not like to see them go, but it is more than necessary at this point, in my opinion. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Plus, down for like Gaming, and bye.